The image of the crowded tavern stands out before me, a den of shadows and dissonant laughter. The lights are dim, barely illuminating the eager faces of the nobles. They gather, their voices cutting through the air like blades of scorn, aimed at the king's son. Contempt is a palpable entity, pulsing among them, a bubble of venom echoing in every sardonic laugh. The young, blind prince leans against a wall in a corner, isolated like a faded star among a sea of glittering celestial bodies. The amber necklace gleams at his throat, a sliver of light amidst the darkness surrounding him. It's a constant reminder of what he could be, what his lineage represents, yet cruelly denied. He does not rule. He is an icon of scorn among those who should protect him. The light I carry will not be extinguished. These words echo in my mind, a mantra that propels me forward. As I draw nearer, the laughter intensifies, a true symphony of cruelty. What can I do to break the cycle of mockery? My hands tremble in my pockets as I approach the cluster of aristocrats. A fierce desire boils within me. I want to defend the indefensible, to raise my voice against the mantle of shadows gathering over him. But at the same time, anxiety tightens its grip on my chest like a shackle. An impulse drives me forward, and the sensation is like an electric current coursing through my veins. As the nobles hurl cruel jokes, I watch the scene unfold. The contempt is profound, but something more bubbles beneath the surface. The prince, though blind, feels. He feels the humiliation, the scorn, the indifference. And I, inexplicably, feel it too. He is a mirror reflecting the struggle of all of us, of all who are deemed lesser. I decide then to act. The heavy silence of the room makes me shiver. I feel the tension in the air like the stillness of a predator on the prowl. Observing the prince, I realize he is more aware than the others imagine. His fingers trace the amber necklace, as if trying to reclaim some lost part of himself, as if seeking the connection everyone denies him. What does he desire? A touch? Recognition? Friendship? Then the contemptuous gazes of those nobles turn to me, and the laughter dwindles into a dark murmur. My intentions are like poisoned spears aimed at what they consider pure and perfect. "What are you doing here?" one of them asks, the most arrogant, perched on the highest rung of his own wealth's throne. The air becomes electrically charged, and I feel the world watching, every soul held captive within those walls. The moment is a watershed, a choice between retreating or advancing. I can remain silent, or I can bring light. That is what drives me. That what makes me step into the confrontation, even before knowing what it will mean. A slight tremor in my fingers reminds me that even in the gloom, I can still bring the clarity many fear. The light I carry will not be extinguished, I murmur to myself. This thought arms itself like an arrow, ready to be loosed. Memories dance in my mind as the cruel voices of the court reverberate around me. I recall the hardest days of my life, when marginalization shaped my character in twisted, contorted ways. Recent traumas emerge like shadows around me, down the dark corridor where echoes of scorn seem to whisper. What if these nobles knew what it was like to live in the shadows, to be the target of scorn? What it was like to be the prince, despised and excluded? The weight of their contempt makes them equal in my eyes, prisoners of the expectations they themselves created. I feel a growing surge of compassion and defiance, an internal call I cannot ignore. I see him again, the king's son, and he harbors a fragility that goes far beyond the physical. Yet a resilience also hides beneath the surface. He feels not just the vibrations of pain, but those of struggle, concealed within the dissembling smiles of the aristocracy. Watching him acts as a compass, guiding me through the torment I've already known.
The silence is deafening as I face him, and an invisible thread seems to connect us. I walk toward the darkness surrounding him, and I feel my resolve growing like an unexpected fire burning amidst a storm. The soft thud of my footsteps against the floor is like a muffled drumbeat, echoing in a space that doesn't belong to me, but which I claim. How can I rescue someone who doesn't wish to be touched? Doubt creeps in, but it's overshadowed by the desire to defy norms. The path leading to him winds, a journey fraught with uncertainties, but I press on. I want him to know he's not alone. I draw closer. He continues to touch the amber necklace with trembling fingers, seeking solace. With courage, I reach out to him, but hesitate. What will I say? What can I offer that isn't just another wound? You don't have to live in this darkness. The words almost slip from my tongue. But time seems to freeze, and the tension in the air escalates. He catches a sound.
Interpreting it as a proposition, and even in his state, I can feel curiosity stirring within him. The court's gazes, still heavy, turn to us like a precipice, threatening to crumble into abysses of scorn. The silence persists, an invitation to advance. And then, in a moment of clarity, I decide he deserves more. I cannot allow him to perish in the forgotten acceptance of a situation he didn't ask for, doesn't want, and that the court demands he embrace. Instinctively, I place my hand over his, feeling the coldness of his skin, the absence of human warmth. The contrast is like a rehearsal of rescued hopes and exposed wounds. We're in this together, my thoughts scream, though the words remain unsaid. A slight tremor in his fingers tells me he perceives, he feels the depth of this touch. This is how I break the barrier between us, transforming shame into possibility, contempt into a connection that needs rediscovering. The court's scorn still cuts in the background, but there, beside him, something magical begins to form. I yearn for the light I carry within me to inextricably intertwine with his through this small action, that perhaps we can circumvent the imposed limits. What will this mean? The line between power and weakness, between light and darkness, floats like a hazy horizon. The path is paved with possibilities, and one way or another, I can no longer turn back. I grew up in the shadows, but this time I choose to be the light. The touch between us transforms into a vital pulse, connecting our once distant worlds. The moment my hand presses his, a gentle warmth flows between us, dissolving the cruel laughter of the court into a distant echo. That fraction of a second stretches into a space where anything is possible. The prince hesitates, but soon his fingers move in response to the silent invitation I offered. The connection we forge becomes a beacon in the darkness, a timid light against the whispers of scorn surrounding us. "You can hear me," I say, my voice almost a whisper. The words echo among the nobles, and I feel our destinies converging into a new narrative. An unexpected glimmer appears in his eyes, as if he is awakening from a long nightmare. He faces the scorn he has always known, and a new resolve makes his presence grow. The world is no longer just something that observes him, but a space we can shape together. With my hand still clasped in his, I perceive the power of that union. The prince is more than an icon of sorrow.
He becomes a symbol of resistance, hope emerging from a dark past. The silence in the court transforms into confused murmurs. The voices that once mocked his lineage are now mere echoes of doubt, losing ground. "Stay with me," he says, his words resonating like an echo of a promise, not just to me, but to a greater us. This plea reveals the fragility and strength that coexist within him. For an instant, I feel him rise not only as prince, but as a leader who refuses to be just another in a lineage of scorn. As the murmuring in the court grows, I realize we are playing a new game. The aristocrats, confused and uneasy, look at us as if we are a rare spectacle. I feel the atmosphere transform. Contempt is no longer enough to bring us down. We are creating something unprecedented, a new form of resistance that defies established hierarchies. This moment cannot merely be an indictment of fragility. It can be the genesis of a rebirth. A wave of light sweeps through the room, and something breaks in the chains that held us. The prince and I, together, face a tide of possibilities, and a new path awaits us. Steps taken now cannot be undone, and the struggle that once seemed distant now becomes real. We are unaware of the challenges that await us, but determination builds like a current, binding us to a common destiny. A new horizon begins to form before us, and I know that, regardless of the risks, we are ready to face them together. The line between darkness and light is no longer clear, but the promise of change becomes irresistible. With the force of the unknown pulsing in our hearts, a new era begins not just for the prince, but for all those who live under the shadow of oppression. Now more than ever, the future is ours to shape, and we have decided to be the storm. The court's gazes still weigh on us, but the atmosphere that was once oppressive now vibrates with a new energy. Hesitation drains away amidst a current of murmurs, and I realize that rebellion is blossoming. The interplay between shadows and light becomes palpable. Everyone present has something to lose, and that fear begins to surface. As the prince and I remain hand in hand, the anticipation becomes electric. The room transforms into a silent battlefield, where every whisper and critical glance are weapons in a veiled war. One of the most influential nobles steps forward, his imposing presence a wall of scorn rising between us and acceptance. "What do you think you're doing?"
He cuts through the air with a sharp voice, a dominant tone, in a room that felt like a theater of shadows. I feel the tension between us pulse, no longer like a sword hanging over our heads, but as an invitation to battle. I cannot allow him to bend to this scorn. We are uniting. We are not here to be broken, I say in a firm tone, facing the noble. He pauses for an instant, surprised, as if my disdain for his power struck him like a punch. In the next instant, the prince also speaks, his voice echoing like thunder. You forget that what is at stake are lives, not just titles. His words reverberate, shaping the air around us. For the first time, those who considered themselves invulnerable feel the fragility of their position. What was once an unshakable state begins to crack, and I can see the spark of something new ignite in the faces of the other nobles. However, the noble continued to advance toward us, enraged. "Rebels, that's what you are. The prince is putting himself in a dangerous position." It is a cry of warning, but also a revelation. It is clear that power fears what it does not understand. The tension mounts. The prince and I exchange a look, and something passes between us. A decision forms, and we both know we cannot retreat. Looking at the court, my heart pounds with sudden resolve. Rebels? The word leaves my mouth like a defiant whisper. If speaking truth makes us rebels, then we will fight for it. We are not slaves to our origins. The court's murmur transforms into a rising chorus. The words reverberate, almost like an enchantment. The prince's response is a nod, a sign that he understands the depth of what I have just said. Contempt begins to transform into a new complexity, a mixture of fear and respect. Momentarily, I feel as if time stops. The confrontation is not just between us and the powerful, but between what once was and what can be.
The echo of our voices resonates through the court walls, reinventing the established power structure. I feel every heart present leaning in to listen. The battle is far from over, but a new fight begins here. The prince, now more than a mere symbol, becomes a flame ignited in the darkness. His courage and mine intertwine like unexpected victories, a thread of hope in a sea of despair. My eyes fix on him, and among the nobles, the current of change already begins its movement. What we have begun to shape together is not just a revolution, it is a transformation.
We possess the power to mold the future, and even surrounded by uncertainties, we know this storm is only the beginning. A new horizon approaches, and we are determined to forge our destinies, living up to what may one day rise from the ashes of oppression. The intensity of the moment permeated the air, and the nobles' gazes became a storm of contradictory emotions. Those who were once so secure in their position now writhed under the weight of their uncertainties. The noble who threatened us paused, the anger in his eyes now mixed with a terrifying understanding. What we had begun to raise between us was not just a speech of rebellion, but a spark of change that could ignite the entire court. "Do you truly believe you can defy the natural order?" he retorted, but his voice, though firm, carried a slight tremor. That was no longer the self-assurance of a man in command. It was the hesitation of a man who realizes the ground beneath his feet is crumbling. An anticipation built in the electrified air, and the room breathed in sync with our words. "Natural?" I retorted, raising my voice for all to hear. "To believe that oppression is natural is what brought us here. To deny another's humanity is the true betrayal." Our words danced through the room, and I realize, for the first time, the power of our solidarity. Heads in the room began to nod in understanding, however reluctantly. The prince beside me made a subtle movement, as if ready to take the lead. He, who had always been seen as an isolated figure, now became a leader, echoing in the hearts of those present. "What all of you must understand," he said, his voice now a roar of hope, "is that we do not seek destruction, but renewal. Fear cannot govern our destinies." In that instant, I saw some expressions transform. Nobles once ready to dismiss our appeal now looked at us with new questions in their eyes. Those who had always been spectators began to become participants in the narrative we were weaving. The yearning for change was visceral and common, and I realized how the fight for a new future resonated in their weary souls. The noble, in his indignation, tried to turn the tide. "For a brief moment we all seem equal, but you are forgetting what you are challenging." His words were venomous, but the court's cohesion was already dissolving like sugar in water. The strength of our purpose was not just a cry, it was the silent revolution beginning to take hold. But the verbal battle was far from over. Quickly, more sharp words were hurled. "Do you truly believe the people will follow you? Where is your evidence of support?" A false assessment, for the true strength lay not in words, but in the fervent murmuring that gradually became a clamor in the shadows of the room. In this moment of crisis, the atmosphere shifted. The prince's countenance became resolute, and a small smile touched his lips. Support is not measured in applause, but in the flames we ignite in people's hearts. And what we have done so far is only the beginning. And so, the voices in the court began to merge into a chorus, both threatening and hopeful. The echo of what was to come already pulsed in the air. The revolution was planting its deep roots, growing colossal in the shadows, and gradually new cries for freedom bloomed in the minds and hearts of those watching.
We were ready for the revelation that awaited us, and together we would not be remembered as mere shadows in history, but as the architects of a new destiny. Power is beginning to be rewritten, and I feel that what comes next is the true storm. The temperature in the court shifts. The room, once heavy with ancient traditions and whispered secrets, now hums with electric potential. I feel the prince beside me, his presence opening space for new voices, and the rising murmur transforms into a subtle roar. We are no longer just rebels amidst a skeptical aristocracy, but carriers of a narrative about to unfold, and this story demands to be told. The palpable tension is cut by a new resolve. We must gather those who believe in change, I say, the idea echoing in my mind like a summons to those who wish to join us. The prince nods, his gaze now shining with the ferocity of a leader who has found his voice. Every soul that joins us is another pillar in our freedom. But those in power will never give up without a fight, the noble from before interjects, his words a dagger in the air. He tries to reverse the tide, retreating into a cocoon of authority, but every word he speaks only serves to intensify our purpose. The taste of defiance is sweet, and the reluctant noble's support is like fuel. Then let the fight come, I reply, feeling the flame grow. This battle will not be merely physical, but a war of ideals and determination. Our gazes meet, and among the surrounding nobles, winds of uncertainty begin to blow. No one can remain neutral for much longer. The aristocrats shift, forming small groups.
Some debating vehemently, others with furtive glances. The climate is changing, and the line separating allies from opponents now seems tenuous. Each murmur of support floats in the atmosphere, and I can almost taste the courage building in the shadows. "Let's summon those who cannot be heard," the prince suggests, his voice carrying impressive firmness. "The peasants, the forgotten, those who have lost everything. They too need to know our struggle." The idea reverberates with an unexpected impact. A wave of hope sweeps through the room, and the prospect of what could be, a powerful union between high society and those who have always been marginalized, is stark. With that, we begin to lay out a plan. Secret meetings in the darkest taverns, coded messages, a bond that reaches beyond the court walls. We need to forge an alliance that shows the realm whose side we are on. The silence transforms into an animated hum as nobles and peasants unite under a single banner. But like the tides of a storm, there is also a counterstrike. The hunters, guardians of pure lineage and order, will not stand idly by. "They will never let us break the foundation of the court," I hear someone say in a corner, the apprehension now echoing more audibly. In that instant, I realize the battle will not be solely of words. The active vigilance of the hunters and their infiltration of shadowy networks will become serious. Fear grows within us, but so too does the determination to win, and I know we must move quickly. Every decision now will ripple outwards, and the roots of our new era must be watered with courage and strength. As the air grows dense with tension, a cauldron of emotion stirs within me. We who were fragmented now begin to unite in a single purpose, and through the darkness a light shines. We shed the chains of the past and prepare for what is to come. The true storm is about to break, and our future is in our hands. Ready for the fight, we know we will not retreat. The wind blew cold through the city streets, carrying with it a dark omen. On the day marked for our first meeting with the peasants, anxiety permeated the air. Every shadow seemed to stir with the suspicion of the hunters, who, aware of what was underway, had grown more vigilant. We arrived at the chosen tavern, a dark and almost forgotten spot in the back alleys.
Damp from the rain and our caution, nobles and commoners together, we exchanged glances of recognition. The space was small.
In the darkness that enveloped us, we left the tavern with a new purpose. Skirting the edge of the fiery future before us, with courage and determination intertwining like the threads of a legacy now beginning to unfold before our eyes. And the hunters, the guardians of purity, would know that the fight for freedom had begun, and nothing could interrupt this renewed desire for liberty. In the heart and mind of each of us, a new cry of resistance was about to ignite. The morning of the protest arrived with a gray sky, reflecting the anxiety in our hearts. We carefully planned each step, knowing that the fate of our struggle hung in the balance. The hopeful anticipation soon mingled with the pressure of what could go wrong. The hunter's gaze was ever present, a constant reminder of the risks we were about to face. As day turned to night, the city's main square was transformed. Peasants and nobles gathered, forming a sea of determined and hopeful faces. Deep within, a sense of unity rose, like a bulwark against the oppression that had always suffocated us. "We are here to demand our right to freedom," my voice echoed across the square, fear dissolving amidst the shouts of support. The prince, at my side, spoke inspiring words. "Every bit of support we have counts. Together, we are stronger than any force that exists to silence us." The atmosphere seethed, and the feeling of collective power seemed unbeatable. But then the clang of armor approached, cutting the positive energy like a blade. The hunters, equipped and ready to repress, burst into the edges of the crowd. Panic flickered across faces that had previously exuded confidence. The line we were crossing was now defined by tension. "Stand firm," I shouted, the urgency in my voice palpable. "This is our fight." Every word was a call to resistance, reminding everyone that what we were undertaking was not just a protest, but a rebirth. The air grew heavy, and everyone was aware that a battle was about to begin. The hunters drew closer. We felt the struggle coalescing around us, a pressure that demanded courage from each of us. Our destinies were intertwined like the lightning bolts of a storm about to break. We knew that, regardless of the approaching fight, we were united in a single purpose. "We will not retreat," I declared, conviction pulsing in my heart. In that moment, the true strength of our unity shone, an overwhelming cry of resistance emanating from each of us. What was to come could define our destiny, but we were willing to fight, not for the shadows, but for a future of freedom and hope. And as the sound of the struggle grew, we felt that, finally, we had crossed a line that would never again be uncrossed.